and also extra starch.
Sure.
Well, it was nothing.
You might find out the hard way.
You come out there and your Escalade is like this. Wow.
Those dang kids all over.
Somebody better call the city.
No, but I appreciate anytime you guys see something like that. Let us know, because
Yeah. That's why I sent you that, because there's that water line runs right underneath that. So I don't know if there's a slow leak or something there.
What are you going to? That's full of sinkholes.
Don't spread a rumor.
there's a lot of storm sewers, unfortunately.
Wayne, if you get a chance, would you drive by the storage area for Dawson Tire?
Yes.
I think maybe it's time to call on them and pay them a visit. I think we had the same trouble with T.O. Haas at one time. They cleaned theirs up, but
Yeah. I noticed that the other day. Thanks for reminding me. A lot of those storm drains, corrugated tin, they covered it with concrete. Sometimes they make the edges real good, and once that corrugated tin foam rots out, sometimes it just caves in.
Wayne, the corrugated stuff wasn't supposed to hold the concrete. It was just for the form.
Yeah.
I'll try not to cough on you too much, Bill.
Slowly start edging closer to tide.
Yeah, that's not it. All right, everyone. Welcome to the North Platte City Council meeting here on Tuesday, March 21st, 2023, starting at 5:30 p.m. in a couple seconds. Calling the meeting officially to order, we have an invocation by Pastor Von Farnbrook from the Rock Church, please.
Let's pray. Jesus, we thank you for what you're doing in our midst, and we thank you for a group of council members and a mayor whose heart is set on stewarding our town in a direction that's better for its people and all who call North Platte home. We pray for continued blessings of knowledge, wisdom, and discernment over our city leaders as they move through tonight's agenda and make decisions and choices that will bring goodness and favor to our town. We pray for continued health and wellness upon each leader tonight. We pray all these things in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. Angie, roll call, please.
Nestle,
Here.
Tryon. Here. Bowles.
Here.
Lucas.
Here.
Garrick.
Here.
Flanders.
Here.
Reeker.
Here.
Lutz.
The current copy of the Open Meetings Act of the State of Nebraska is posted on the wall at the back of the council chambers. Meeting procedure. The public may address specific agenda items at the pleasure of the mayor. If recognized by the mayor, please identify yourself by stating your name and address. Please address the council through the mayor and limit your remarks. We respect our city employees and request that any complaints or criticisms of employees not be aired in a public meeting. Concerns about employees should be brought to the attention of the city administrator or the mayor. Individuals in violation will be declared out of order. Excuse me. Consent agenda. All matters under consent agenda are considered by the city council to be routine and will be enacted by one motion. Any city council member may, however, remove an item from consent by request. Hopefully I get through all this. Number 1, approve the minutes of March 7, 2023. Number 2, place on file the treasurer's report of February 2023. Number 3, approve the North Platte Fire Department annual report for 2022. Number 4, approve the mayor's appointments of John Gutzwriter, Daniel Kenny, and Matthew Bortner to fill out the remainder of the 3 terms of the North Platte Tree Board. Number 5, authorize the mayor to execute health and accident contracts for the city's self-insuring health and accident plan beginning April 1, 2023. Number 6, authorize the mayor to sign the resolution and policy plan for the updated Title VI non-discrimination policy for 2023 for the North Platte Public Transit. Number 7, authorize the police department to apply for the Nebraska Department of Transportation Highway Safety Office grant funded overtime reimbursement to participate in the U Drive, U Text, U Pay selective overtime enforcement campaign. Number 8, authorize the police department to apply for the Nebraska Department of Transportation Highway Safety Office Grant funded overtime reimbursement to participate in the Drug Impaired Driving Selective Overtime Enforcement Campaign. Number 9, authorize and approve purchases agreements for a 2023 Ford F-250 pickup and a 2023 Ford F-150 pickup, and authorize the mayor to sign the necessary documents. Item number 10, authorize the mayor to execute the purchase agreement with Anderson Ford in the amount of $54,789 for the new service van for the electric department. Number 11, approve the purchase of equipment for the park division as presented in the materials, and authorize the mayor to sign all necessary documents.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion by Reeker, second by Nisly. Calling the question on the consent
Mr. Mayor,
agenda.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
Could I ask to remove item number 5, please?
Item number 5 is removed. We will need to modify the motion in some form.
Mr. Mayor, I move then that we approve the consent agenda as presented with the exception of number 5.
Second.
Okay, motion and second by Reeker and Nisly. Calling the question on all items except number 5. That motion is passed. Ty, number 5.
Okay, this should be quick. This pertains to the renewal of the city's health insurance as part of the employee benefit program. As we talked in the work session, I've been working on that council with Lane and with Chief Reeves and various others from the city and from outside. And a couple things. First of all, I wanted to follow up on, well, first of all, I want to state the fact that we have no premium increases is a credit to the people operating the plan, Lane, in particular the department heads and the employees. Nobody has no health insurance premium increases right now. And with this being a self-insured plan, this has taken a tremendous effort, and I hope the employees of the city recognize the work they've done is translating right into this. With that, Mr. Garrick, I know you had asked a question about state comparability information, and I had as well and requested that. Did you receive that information?
I did not.
Okay, I haven't received that information either. Lane, do you have that
I
information?
have not gotten anything.
Okay. I had also asked a question about the aggregate stop loss, and I was provided that information from APTA. So they did provide us information on the cost of about $50,000 of aggregate stop loss and why they recommended not having aggregate stop loss. So we don't need to spend time on that today, and I don't disagree with the recommendation, but they did provide that information to us. The other thing, Lane, in our committee, when APTA was at our committee, we had asked them to give us a recommendation of what it would look like if the city added a third option of a kind of an employee plus one or an employee and spouse option. Were you provided that information?
They're still working on that from my
Okay.
understanding, so with the amount of time, that's something that we're looking at how that would affect different employee groups, so that we don't have that answer as of yet.
Okay. We got cornered's a bad word, but we got tight to our renewal time frame on this. And so as we were when they were here for our work session, and then we were here, and then we had our committee meeting that same day, I think open enrollment was scheduled to start like the next Monday, right? So we got a little cornered on time, but I'd like to share with the council that there's definitely some items that we'd like to look at to enhance the overall program, maybe bring additional parity or fairness, provide the employees additional options. And I feel pretty confident that by the next time we're getting through a really deep look, and I think we're going to be well prepared to discuss those things next time. I'm going to vote in favor of renewal because the last thing I want to do is put any kind of a stall in our employee benefits program, but I wanted to have you guys a little update. And Lane, I think those items that council members requested, I'd like to ensure those get delivered too.
Will do.
We would need a motion to proceed.
Okay.
I move to authorize the mayor to execute health and accident contracts for the city's self-insuring health and accident plan beginning April 1st, 2023.
Second.
Motion by Garrick, second by Reeker. Calling the question on item number 5 from the consent agenda. Item number 5 is passed. Thank you, everyone. Moving on to the regular agenda. Number 12, action on ordinance number 4115 to create street improvement district number 359 located on Deerwood Drive from Sunset Drive, then north to the end of the cul-de-sac.
Mr. Mayor, would you like me to read the ordinance?
Yes, please do.
In front of you is the corrected copy of the ordinance. Just had to change from Philip to Sunset, there was a typo. Ordinance number 4115, an ordinance creating street improvement district number 359 in the city of North Platte, Lincoln County, Nebraska, and describing the various streets in said street improvement district and improvements to be constructed therein.
I move to adopt ordinance number 4115 to create street improvement district number 359 as presented in council materials on first reading.
Second.
Motion by Garrick, second by Vols. We have any discussion on item number 12?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Reeker?
I'm curious, how are we deciding which streets are gonna be repaired and which aren't?
Councilman Reeker, engineering and street department looks at those that are, have the most wear, costing us a lot as far as repairs, and we try and put those first, and so that's going around town and looking at things, and this is one of those, since we're already doing some asphalt projects, it made sense to put this on there.
When we look at our streets that need to be repaired, it's probably kind of an unending list.
For sure.
And, have you got them categorized now as to which ones are gonna take priority for next year?
I would defer that to Brent, if Brent would like to answer that.
Good evening, council and mayor. As far as some of this is dynamic, as we're coming out of some of the winter, Deerwood is one of them. There's a few streets that are faring worse. They're showing up now. And so there's a little bit of a dynamic component of what we think is bad in October to what it is now. And one of the things the mayor had worked on, we have a project within the engineering department with a intern this year that we're going to enhance some of our programming with the street evaluation process. The intern's going to assist with some of that component that we do right now. Right now, what we mainly look at is it's kind of the cost of repair that we're looking at, and also how heavily the road is used as well. Those things kind of come into play. As you mentioned, our list is longer than our money at this point, so there is a little bit of a challenge on drawing a line, because some of the other ones aren't an argument that they don't need to be done as well. So we kind of look a little bit on if they're arterial or commercial that are heavier use, those type of things. So, but we're going to be in the process of continuing to refine our evaluation criteria this summer with some of the intern to create more of a database. And again, it's dynamic, that probably need to go through it every year. The weather has a great impact on it as well, and traffic, construction, things like that.
Well, I'm probably like most of you, very, very grateful for the moisture that the good Lord gave us this winter, but now then there's some consequences for that on our streets, and
Yes.
I understand that. I guess from my perspective, I would like to have some kind of an idea, maybe next year, before we do our budgeting. I really think we need to put a major priority on street repair. And that may mean moving monies from some other expenditures and put them into streets. When I look at the primary functions of government, roads is one of the primary functions of government, and I think we have to look at repairing our streets. A lot of them are not in very good repair, and I don't know that anybody's going to disagree with that. And so just my own thoughts here. I think we need to make that a priority, and I think that we need to think about redirecting some of our funds to streets and maybe less at some other issues.
Any other comments or questions?
Mayor Keller,
Mr.
I just have a
Nissen.
question. Is it necessary to expedite this? As far as, the construction season and doing the three
Good
readings?
question. I would prefer that we could expedite it, because what we're looking at, this was going to be an asphalt overlay that we'd put together with the other districts that we'd already created that would be asphalt overlay. So we would request that if we could do it on one reading would be preferred, just because we're looking at trying to get this bid, and we'd like to put this with it. And this was definitely one that we had more casualty of the winter weather, definitely impacted this more than the others, so it got moved up on our radar.
Oh, go ahead.
Just a quick comment. This wasn't on my radar. It's a rarely used street. It's kind of a cul-de-sac. So I drove down it yesterday and almost lost my truck. It's in really bad shape. It is. And I think it was, I don't know, I rarely go down it, but I don't think
not
the
getting
winter was
better.
very good.
No.
I don't think the winter was very good to it. And I know that further on to the west on Sunset, we're looking to do that area, which is horrendous also. I ride my bike on that a lot. So if timing is right, you hit that. This is kind of low-hanging fruit because it's just a real short little cul-de-sac, then sneak down onto Sunset. If that does aid you, and it sounds like it does to waive 3 readings, I would be a proponent of that, so,
I'd
as
make a
well.
friendly amendment that we waive the 3 readings on this.
Second.
Friendly amendment by Jim Nisley, second by Reeker. To waive the 3 readings. Any discussion on the friendly amendment? Seeing none, calling the question on the friendly amendment. Friendly amendment is passed. So if we pass the original item number 12, it would be done so in 1 reading. Do we have any further discussion on item number 12 with the addition of a single reading?
Just a
Mr. Gary.
comment on your friendly amendment. I prefer to the original motion to be on, so we go through all 3 readings, and then we amend it, because then we can discuss it and vote individually without having to decide on 1 reading. So that's kind of why I always make that motion. So feel free to amend me at any time. Friendly or not.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Lucas?
I was contemplating why I hadn't tried using friendly amendments before, so it was a good lesson today from Mr. Nisley. So I spoke with one of the residents I knew on this cul-de-sac, and I've noticed that this has worn differently than most cul-de-sacs. And I apologize, I don't understand how all this works, but this is, it's broken down, usually you see the black tops split, you see the holes. This has become almost really like large bumpy in different areas. It's just worn differently than most streets. And so one of the residents told me that the rumor mill among the neighborhood is that there was problems with the under construction of this road or this cul-de-sac in the beginning. I guess, is that accurate, or is there anything of concern in the under construction, or will it fix this, or what do you know about that?
Well, that's a good question. I'm not 100% familiar with, I'd have to do a little bit of research on the backstory of some of the past history. The good thing with asphalt in general, it's flexible, relatively speaking, compared to concrete. So with a little bit of movement, the asphalt will be a better product as far as dealing with the subgrade goes, as far as any repairs with that. And then also with some of the way that it's old, and when the asphalt gets old, it starts just, the oil breaks down, the thing that binds everything together, and it eventually just turns back into gravel. So sometimes you get areas that will decompose, look like gravel, get swept up, and then so you get some varying surface parts, just the way that asphalt oil decomposes.
Yeah, well, it certainly needs the repair. I just encourage you to look at that, because from all those, I look at all those streets in that area commonly, and as I know, as do you, this one just seems to have worn differently. So, but thank you.
Is there, excuse me, Mr. Mayor, is there any preliminary work, Brent, that could be done on that, as far as maybe run some compaction equipment over there to maybe consolidate the subgrade a little bit?
We'll take a look at it and see, and we'll definitely put our eyes on it with some different thoughts in mind anyway.
Yeah, if the subgrade's not good, it's not gonna work very well to put a top coat on, as you already know.
I get the one thing that there is the test of time that's been there now. I mean,
How
it's,
old is it?
I'm thinking just on the neighborhood, we're probably in the 30 to 40 year range, so. So,
I think that's about right.
Yeah, I think so too.
yeah. 30 years for asphalt's pretty well.
Excuse me.
And it may just be that it's older than the other ones I've looked at by that much.
Other questions or comments on number 12 as amended? Seeing none, calling the question on number 12, please. Number 12 passes on one reading. Thank you, everyone.
It's not offended you too bad.
Number 13. Action on ordinance number 4116 to approve contribution in aid of construction for the electric department. Lane, would you read that ordinance, please?
Ordinance number 4116, an ordinance of the city of North Platte, Lincoln County, Nebraska, to establish general conditions under which the city will make extensions or additions to electric facilities or upgrades to existing electric facilities, and the general guidelines to be followed in determining a customer's contribution in aid of construction, approving applicable electric rates to be charged to the customers of the city of North Platte Electric Department, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing for the effective date and publication therefore in pamphlet form as provided by law.
I move to adopt ordinance number 4116 to approve contribution in aid of construction and presented in council materials on first reading.
Second?
Motion by Garrick, second by Vols. On item number 13, we have with us tonight John from JK Energy Consulting.
I'll introduce myself. Mayor, members of the, okay, is that better? Okay.
Thank you.
Mayor, members of the council, my name is John Kraske. I'm from Smithfield, Nebraska, about an hour away from here. I was retained by the city to assist with cost of service and rate design issues. And as in the process of going through that, working with the city, identified an issue, it was brought to my attention by the city. They had some questions about it. I said, yes, this is something we need to probably address. And it really gets to the heart of just treating customers equitably, treating your existing customers on a basis that's similar to the way you treat new customers, and making sure the new customers aren't being subsidized by existing customers. And that's the key issue here. And the biggest concern I would have with your current policy is you don't collect anything from a new customer when they request to be served by the city. And in some cases, it may cost you a significant amount of money to provide service to that customer. And if it's a small customer that doesn't use very much electricity, you may never get a payback on that investment. So trying to get your policies in a manner that is consistent with industry standards and make sure that you're not subsidizing those new customers. So I apologize for there we go. I should have brought this as a PowerPoint. So the approach that we developed was one it's a concept of an allowable investment limit. Each new customer, you do a calculation of how much energy they use and how much revenue you expect to collect from them. And then you calculate how much revenue it is less what you're paying your power supplier, NPPD. And then look over a 5-year period, what's the present value of that revenue stream. And that basically gives you an allowable investment limit. Whatever the costs exceed that investment limit, they have to pay up front. And they have to write you a check before you begin construction and begin providing service. And that ensures that you're not going to basically lose money from a new customer when you serve them. That approach is very similar to what Dawson Public Power District, who surrounds you for the most part, along with Nebraska Public Power District, who serves Kearney, Ogallala as examples, as a very similar methodology to what they use. What we do is we set up 3 different customer categories. You have your residential customers. Those customers all have pretty similar usage, so each customer would be given a $1,400 investment limit. They have to pay whatever's in excess of that. If you have somebody that's a half a mile away from your nearest feeder, you may invest a pretty significant amount of money to take service out to that one residential customer, and they're going to have to pay it. Let's say you spend $50,000 to extend that service. They get $1,400. And I don't think it's fair to your other customers that you would spend a lot of money going off to serve a single residential customer. Now, for the most part, residential customers are going to be in a subdivision. You may have multiple customers in that area. So let's say you have a 40-house subdivision. I don't know if you get anything that big in your plans. 40-house subdivision, they would basically get $56,000 as your investment limit. Anything in excess of that, the developer or those homeowners would have to pay. The second category is small general service. Think a restaurant, convenience store, something in that size, maybe a small office. Those customers will have a fairly different usage. I mean, a convenience store uses a lot different than a restaurant, than a small office. So we'd take the amount of energy they use, multiply it by a factor of 11.5 cents, and that would be their investment limit. Anything in excess of that, they would have to pay. The third category, we look at large customers, 300 kilowatts or above. We're thinking, I'm trying to think what a good example of something like, maybe a large, like a mall maybe, something along those lines, probably, that's the best example I could come up with, a very large commercial area. Hotel would probably be in excess of 300 kilowatts as well. We're going to do those on a case-by-case basis. Look at what they use, look what you're going to pay NPPD, calculate the difference, and then give them that investment limit. The key thing here is, if it's a development that's next to a feeder you already have or next to a substation you already have, it isn't going to cost you as much to serve them. They may get the 100% of the cost paid for by the city. If it's off in a remote area of the system, you're going to collect a little bit, you're going to have to collect a little bit more to serve those customers. I think this is a fair way to go to approach this. The last thing I would point out is that the customer would have to execute a service agreement with the city with the estimated contribution. They're going to write a check for what the estimated costs would be less their investment limit. When you get done with the project, if the actual cost is more than what they paid, they're going to have to pay that difference before you flip the breaker and serve them. If they paid more than what that is required, you would give them a refund. So we have developed this in an ordinance form in the rate schedule. As Lane indicated, there's this would be in addition to your existing electric rate schedule. I think this is really important. I've helped a lot of other of my clients put these kinds of policies together, and it really I had a situation with another client where a customer wanted them to extend a 1/4 mile of a distribution line to serve basically a shop, like a metal building that used about 500 kilowatt hours a year, if that. And it was going to cost them about $40,000 to extend this service. And they basically said, no, if you're not going to write a check for what it costs you to extend this line, we're not going to extend service. We're under an obligation to. And it's a money loser for us. I'm not saying that you've had situations like this. I haven't seen them, but certainly this puts a stop to those going on in the future. And I think it's important, not just from the small user standpoint, but even when you get into larger industrial customers. You serve a large industrial customer, you may have a couple $1 million of improvements that you need to put in to serve them. And yes, they may be a $5, $8, $10 million a year customer, but you still have to look at this. You still have to calculate and make sure that you're not subsidizing that new customer. So I think this language is flexible enough to handle the gamut of situations you're going to see. I think it's important, and I would, in my professional opinion, I think you should adopt this ordinance. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Bowles.
So this is going on, this is standard practice, this is best practices in most communities in the state?
Absolutely. I would say, well, I'm not sure I'd say most cities. I would say any cities I work with, this is certainly where we would go. All the major utilities, when I think Hastings, Grand Island, Fremont, Omaha Public Power District, Nebraska Public Power District, I would say 95% of the customers in this state, their utility has a policy like this.
Okay, thank you. And I see, it's not a carve out, but you have a special situation for over 300 kilowatts.
Right.
And one thing, do you see any unintended consequences of development not coming? If it's standard practice amongst most communities, that would be my concern, is an unintended consequence of a development not coming in because of this policy.
I wouldn't, because most other utilities have something very similar, I don't think it's an unintended consequence. And with regard to the carve out of the above 300, we're treating them the same way as we are categories 1 and 2. It's just that every circumstance is so different when you get something that big. that we're gonna use the same principles. We're gonna use that 5-year payback period, we're gonna do the net present value and calculate the margin. That calculation is the same as category 1 and 2. It's just that because of the size and because of the potential costs, there's a lot of differences. We want to make sure that we do the calculation individually for that customer, using the same principles, but basically make sure that you're not lumping them in, lumping a 400 kilowatt customer with a 10,000 kilowatt customer and treating them, basically treating them, we're going to treat them the same, but calculated individually, so.
Thinking, the first thing that came to mind is sustainable beef. And I would love to see an analogy of sustainable beef with our current policy and then with this enacted. I don't know if that's possible or not, and I don't know if it would be much different, but, that's something that I believe we're fortunate to have.
Right.
And, I don't know if that would have deterred them at all. Probably not, but.
Yeah. Well, and I'll say too, when you talk about deterring development or scaring development away, I'm working with another client who has a fairly large ag-based food processing project coming in, and they're actually looking at using a portion of the TIF funding to pay for those improvements as well. So,
Yeah.
just because it's being charged that, you may be able to, not saying that TIF is the right way to do it. Sometimes there's a lot of other hands out for that TIF money as well, of course, but that's always a possibility as well. But again, project by project, and I know you all have been just reading through materials, you've been very active in economic development, and I don't think this will put a kibosh on any of that. I think this will just essentially make sure that it's being done in a fair way for those new customers.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Donna?
How are we currently assessing cost? I guess I don't know.
Scott, would you like to address that?
Maybe
When in doubt, ask the experts.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Right now, the city, pays for all of it. We don't charge any of our customers anything. But I'm gonna talk to Pete for just a second. Sustainable Beef wants 6 transformers out there, and that's to the tune of $900,000. So that upfront will be a bonus for the customers in North Platte, so. But yeah, we cover all of the cost of all the developments right now.
We do have a surcharge on their bill for a certain amount of time to then pay some of that back, but it's not
Right.
probably as equitable as this is currently. It's 7-year process right now, is that?
Yeah, and we're gonna change that to 3 to 5, depending on the amount of difference that we need to collect from them. They can go up to 5 years for the total. And then if it's under 10,000, I think it's an immediate pay. And if it's under 50,000, or 10 to 50, then it's 3 years, and over 50, it's 5 years, so, for them to pay that back, so.
So right
But-
now, we do
Yeah.
collect but we pay it up front, and then there's a collection over 7 years, but it's, that's a long time for the city basically
To work as a bank.
yeah.
I don't think Ty would do it for that, so. Interest-free.
Part of this also is like some of the smaller ones and stuff, so you don't have someone that, you plan on them being here for 20 years and they're only here for 3, and then you're left holding the bag on that investment, so that's the methodology behind this, and that's why the other utilities do it the way they do it, and that's why we wanted to get in line with them.
Makes sense.
Go ahead, Ty.
Just before we jump off that, so I understand that today, we are subcharging that over a 7-year period for upfront costs, or just a portion of it?
Just in certain instances. I mean, when it
Okay.
gets to be such a high amount, we understand they can't pay for it right away, so we will do
Okay.
a 7-year, but I think we only have one on the books right now.
Okay.
And we're trying to get away from it, so.
But in general, we're investing so the cases are rare that we're charging it back today, or are we charging the upfront costs back today over 7 years? I don't know if I understand completely.
So what we're required to do is get power to the property.
Okay.
And then if they want more than that inside the property, then they pay for us to come
Okay.
in and build it. And so therefore, that's what we bill back
Okay.
to the customer.
Okay.
Is what we have involved there.
And then does this new policy, the part that once you hit the property line, or is it getting it to the property line?
It's all the above.
It's all of the above, so it's more of the entire project that's requested.
Whatever it takes for us to get to you, and then whatever you want inside is considered in this, so.
Do you have any concerns with this, Scott, or do you think this is a good plan?
Well, I think this is a great thing for the customers, because before, everybody that has a light bill had to pay for new construction that came to town, and that's probably not fair, so I think it's a great thing for the customers.
Yeah, thanks.
Anyone have anything else? Oh, sorry, Ed, go ahead.
That's fine, Mr. Mayor. I think it's just good business practice.
Yeah,
I mean, if we run this thing like a business, which we really should be,
we're here to make money.
well, at least cover our costs and have a little in the bank.
Yeah.
So I think it's a good model to follow. I guess I'm kind of curious, do you, Mr. Kraske, recommend this in other utility applications?
I've certainly worked with other utilities on water and wastewater rates where the concept of a line extension fee or a system development charge is part of it. I think each utility has their own specific circumstances, what it costs to extend service and so forth. So I think it's a good business practice to look at it for all your utilities, though.
Is that something that you have your clients that are doing?
In fact, I've just recently finished up some study work for the city of Fountain, Colorado, where this was an element of it. And it was basically it's a, what do they call it there? Not a system, they have a specific name for it, and I'm just off the top of my head can't remember, but essentially it's for their water system, it's what it costs to extend the lines to them. And then in their case, Colorado drought, tight water supply, what it costs to procure water supply to serve that new customer. And their water line extension fee plus water development fee is 15 grand. That's just to serve a single new residential customer. But essentially what they do with water, though, is the entire 100% of the cost of extending the line is what they pay. So I'm not saying that's prudent here, and you certainly aren't paying $40,000 an acre feet for new water supply like they are out there. So, but I wouldn't say it's a bad idea, and maybe something you want to consider.
Well, I think we put some sewer lines in that it would have been nice if we'd implemented this practice a few years ago. That some of that money would be back in our account. Right now, it's going to take years and years and years to recover any of that, and quite probably never in some cases.
Definitely something we will explore going forward on that piece of it too, the water and sewer.
So in the future, I can anticipate lower electric rates? Maybe? TIF, the money circles around, right?
This was as part of an electric rate study that we looked at. Really, the cost of these types of improvements to serve new customers are pretty minor compared to what you pay in PPD for power, what you pay your line crews to operate the system. I think this would have some positive impact, but I think the other, if we're in an 8% inflation, what you're paying your linemen has to go up to stay competitive with Dawson and NPPD. I think those other aspects of are going to be the bigger cost drivers for the electric rates. And I would love to be able to say your rates are going to go down, but we'll be coming. I can let Lane speak to this, but we have some cost of service results, and I believe that in conjunction with your next budget, we'll be presenting those rates to the council. So
We held our rate steady for 5 years and had a small increase this last year, and look at what everything's done. I mean, transformers have quadrupled in price and different things. I mean, we're gonna have some increases, but I think last time we checked, we were still in the bottom third as far as what our rates were compared to others. So, I mean, we're staying more than competitive and trying to keep them low, but they're probably not gonna go down.
I know, that was kind of tough.
I thought windmill power was free.
Unfortunately, windmills aren't free,
but the
so.
windmills aren't.
Okay, other questions or comments on this one? This is your opportunity. We have the experts standing at the podium. Seeing none, calling the question on item number 13, please. Hold on, the screen is black. Coming back. There we go. Okay. Item number 13 is passed. Thank you, John. Appreciate
Thank you,
being here.
appreciate the opportunity. I'll see you in a couple months, I'm sure.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Excuse me.
We'll have two more.
Yes. Oh, we will have two more readings. Sorry. Okay. Item number 14, action on ordinance number 4117, amending salary ordinance number 4105, establishing a salary schedule for the positions of Park and Recreation Director, Recreation Projects Manager, and updating the salary schedule for the position of Public Service Director.
Ordinance number 4117, an ordinance of the mayor and council of the city of North Platte, Lincoln County, Nebraska, amending salary ordinance number 4105 to provide a salary schedule for a park and recreation director, a recreation projects manager, and updating the salary schedule for public service director, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing for the effective date and publication thereof.
Thank you.
Excuse me. I move to approve ordinance number 4117.
Second.
Motion by Garrick, second by Reeker. Discussion on item number 14.
Is there any logic or reason behind waiving the 3 readings?
There would be, because we would like this to take effect upon 15 and 16 being approved the 2nd of April instead of waiting. But that'd be the logic.
I'm happy to offer an amendment to waive the 3 separate readings.
Second.
Friend here, I'm trying.
Would that be a friendly amendment?
Let's see how the vote goes.
Motion by Lucas, second by Garrick to waive the 3 readings on item number 14. Any discussion on waiving the 3 readings? Calling the question on waiving the 3 readings. The 3 readings are waived. We're back to the original number 14. Any further discussion? Seeing none, calling the question. Oh, I'm sorry, Donna, go ahead.
I just have a question. I don't know if you call this a class, A, B, C, D. Are those like grades, I assume?
Basically, it's our steps,
Steps, thank
and
you.
at their anniversary of these positions, that would, upon favorable review, would go up each year, and that's a favorable review from the administrator, so,
So that's an annual.
yes, correct. And that's how all of our positions are throughout or almost all of our positions are 8 steps. There's a couple in the fire department that are 5-step, but most are 8-step positions.
What happens after 8 steps?
Then the only increase would be cost of livings at that point.
Thank you.
Other questions or comments on 14? Seeing none, calling the question on item number 14 as amended. Item number 14 is passed. Item number 15, approve the mayor's appointment of Steve Menser as Public Service Director.
I move to approve the mayor's appointment of Steve Menser as Public Service Director.
Second.
Motion by Garrick, second by Vols. Discussion on item number 15. Seeing none, calling the question on item number 15.
That's not a good sign.
Or Steve.
Hopefully it doesn't have a lot of teeth, whatever it was. Item number 15 is passed despite the noise in the sound system. Item number 16, approve the mayor's appointment of Lyle Minshall as Park and Recreation Director.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve the mayor's appointment of Lyle Minchell as Park and Recreation Director.
Second.
Motion by Reeker, second by Flanders.
I think it's his computer.
Kevin, you want to look that before that thing blows up on us? Okay.
Maybe you just have to stand there.
We'll pause briefly for, yeah, don't close that. All chaos will break loose. Maybe, yeah, there we go.
It's fine.
Okay. Back to voting. It's almost there. There we go. Okay, hey, here we go. Okay, so, a motion by Mr. Reeker, second by Mr. Flanders. Any discussion on item number 16? Seeing none, calling the question, item number 16. Item number 16 is passed. Congratulations, gentlemen. Okay. Item number 17. Adopt a resolution approving claims and authorizing the issuance of 5 warrants to First State Bank totaling $1,168,183.08 to pay approved claims and referring to and incorporating the terms and conditions of ordinance number 3874 relating to warrant financing passed and approved on May 21, 2013.
I move to approve the resolution authorizing the issuance of 5 warrants as presented in the materials.
Second. Oh,
Motion by Garrick, second by Lucas. I think you won that one, Ty. And any discussion on item number 17? Seeing none, calling the question on item number 17. Item number 17 is passed.
Mr. Mayor, just as kind of an ancillary question, I guess. I didn't go back and look and see what this was that was approved on May 21, 2013, but what is this that it took 10 years to get worked through to when we're paying for?
Well, that's not the case. That refers back to an ordinance relating to how we pay warrants. That was the ordinance to how we pay warrants was passed back on May 21st, 2013. So I'm sure we could have Dawn give us a much more detailed description if you would like it.
Okay.
Okay, yeah,
Maybe it sounds like a pretty good customer, you're gonna keep it.
yes.
if you're the people on the other side of the warrant, you'd like to know that the city's legally has the ordinance intact of the process to issue them properly, so, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Did I get that pretty close to right, Don?
Yes, you did.
Okay, thank you very much.
And Mr. Mayor, before we go into item 18, I motion that we enter into executive session for the purpose of contract discussions. But I would, if it pleases the mayor, I would like to retain Brent Birkeland
Okay,
in the council chambers if we could.
thank you.
Second.
Motion by Vols, second by Garrick to enter into executive session for the purpose of contract discussion. Calling the question on that motion. Just getting the technology going here real quick, everybody.
I'm glad to see you're not using TikTok.
I think you need to unmute us, Kevin. No, seriously, I think you need to unmute us here, don't you? We were unmuted before. There we go. Okay. You can hear us now? Okay. I can hear myself over there. All right, thank you, everyone. Appreciate you hanging around through the executive session. Item number 18. Approve the selection of RDG Planning and Design for professional services for the Cody Pool expansion and renovation and the Recreation Center remodel and expansion, and authorize the mayor to negotiate contracts.
I move to approve the selection of RDG Planning and Design for professional services for the Cody Pool expansion and renovation and the Recreation Center remodel and expansion, and authorize the mayor to negotiate contracts.
Second.
Motion by Garrick, second by Vols. Any discussion on, excuse me, any discussion on item number 18? Seeing none, calling the question on item number 18. Item number 18 is passed. Item number 19, approve the claims.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the claims.
Second.
Motion by Reeker, second by Nisley. Calling the question on approving the claims. Claims are approved. Public agenda request. We respect our city employees and request that any complaints or criticisms of employees not be aired in a public meeting. Concerns about employees should be brought to the attention of the city administrator or the mayor. Individuals in violation will be declared out of order. At this point in the meeting, if anyone has an agenda request item, they're welcome to approach the podium, tell us who you are, and what you'd like us to discuss. Based on lack of movement in the audience, I'm thinking no one's going to come up to you.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we adjourn.
Second?
Motion by Reeker to adjourn, second by Vols, calling the question on adjournment. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Stay warm. Enjoy the little bit of moisture we may get.
This is our last meeting this month. I think April though, this year. I was looking at those months where I think we're gonna get a grace break in April, aren't we? Yeah, we the first two.
I don't think it's not long enough.
I think it was that TS.
Might be May, that's.
Yeah. Again, I don't know anything about pools, but that didn't sound right.
Yes, we will, they will be. July is. Yeah, you're asking the tough questions, huh?
I know, but you got a good calendar.